Welcome friends, it's Ray. Thank you so much for joining me today. In today's video, I am featuring cards I made using the April My Monthly Hero Arts card kit. If you missed it, do check out my unboxing video if you want to dive deeper into the contents of this kit. I will be sure and link that below. The cards I make in today's video are 5x7 A7 cards. I know a lot of people like to make A2 cards or other size cards, but these designs can easily be adapted to A2 4¼ by 5½. With card number 1, I'm using the washi tape from the kit, and I just pulled in a scrap of cardstock. I'm placing my washi tape directly on the cardstock. I made another one of these washi tape covered cardstock pieces, and then I cut those into 1/2-inch strips and brought in some colored cardstock and cut the cardstock into 3/4-inch strips. I'm using Hero Arts pumpkin, canary, and kiwi cardstocks here. I brought in a scrap piece of copy paper that I cut to 4½ by 6½, and now I'm bringing in my pumpkin cardstock, and we'll place that on top, and I'm using my grid mat to line that up. I placed liquid glue underneath. Once I get the top lined up, then of course all the others are going to be lined up, so I don't have to worry about that. And then I bring in between each color, I bring in my scripty cardstock, washi tape scripty cardstock, and it is directional, so I need to pay attention and make sure I don't have it bottom side up. And I'm going to butt each one up against the other, so no space in between. I'm placing my craft tacky glue directly on my copy paper, and then just putting my design together here. Like I said, cardstock piece alternating with my washi tape piece. And I'm going to go through and just finish the rest of this. Now I'm going to flip this over and trim off the excess strips from each side. Then I will go ahead and finish up the design. I placed a piece of 40-pound vellum into my MISTI, and I'm going to stamp my vases there. I'll use one for a different design. Prepping this for heat embossing, and we'll stamp this with my VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and then use some ultra fine clear embossing powder. I will heat set this with my heat tool. I ended up trimming this down to 4x6. Then I put this piece into the Blossom Fields embossing folder and ran it through my die cutting machine. Here I'm trimming off just a sliver from each end, each of the short ends. I love that added texture with embossing. And matting it onto cardstock, black cardstock mat that was 4 1/8 by 6 1/8. Next, I am bringing in my vellum vase, and I have used some Simon Says Stamps micro dots adhesive on the back of my vase. But later I am going to have to add some liquid adhesive. The micro dots adhere okay, but I think because of the texture from my embossing folder, I am going to need some more liquid adhesive. Using liquid adhesive to add my floral from the kit that I colored with my Tri-Blend Spectrum Noir markers and mounted my sentiment from the kit onto foam squares. And right about here is where I realize I need to add additional liquid adhesive. I just remove it and go around the perimeter with my Ranger multimedia matte glue, and then I'm able to affix that to my panel. Now I'm using liquid adhesive to adhere my sentiment to the top of my vase. I also added 3 drops of lemon chiffon pops of color. And that finishes off that card. Moving on to card number 2, I've placed a piece of canary cardstock in my MISTI. And now I'm lining up as many of the florals from the stamp set in the kit as possible, and some of the doodly images, just lining those up, forming a pattern, and then we'll stamp that using the butter bar ink from the kit. And I'm gonna stamp this multiple times. And you may have noticed that I didn't clean my 2 larger stamps from the last time I used them. So they had a little black ink on it, on them. And so they stamped a little darker. I'm okay with that. And if I weren't, I could just flip this cardstock over on the back side, you know, clean my stamps, and then I'd be fine. So that's what's going on here. So then I flip my paper over to, and then I'm stamping them on the bottom of that panel as well, so that I have my own patterned background. Here I've placed my acetate sheet on top so that I can move some of my stamps around without cleaning them, just to fill in some more of the spacing. Next, I'm going to work on my frame, and I'm using the Hero Arts Palm Green cardstock and the Hero Arts Wood Frame Infinity dies. But my card is a 5x7 A7 card, so I am going to die cut this twice and then snip the ends, or cut it out at all of the corners, and then use those individual pieces to form my frame. Cut one corner on an angle, but that doesn't work, so I cut the rest straight, trying to keep my longest sides as long as possible, because I know those are the ones that I really need to, I can use on the 5-inch side of my card. I'm forming my frame, and I did use the largest of the infinity dies. I'm using liquid adhesive on them, forming them. framing just this white cardstock that measures 5 by 7, and using my acrylic blocks, some magnets to hold this down in between applying my glue, because I want to apply a good amount of pressure there. And then I will just trim off the end. Next, I've cut my leaf out of that same palm green cardstock and black cardstock. And I'm going to affix these together and offset the black so that it adds more interest. Heat embossed my sentiment off camera onto some black cardstock using alabaster white embossing powder, and trimmed it to 3/4 of an inch. And now I am affixing some foam tape to the back of it, and leaving a space in between for the stem of my leaf. And once I'm done with that, I will go ahead and affix it to my card panel. And then I use liquid adhesive to affix my leaf to my panel, and being careful to insert the stem just behind the sentiment where I've left the separation between the foam tape. I use liquid adhesive to glue my frame to my black mat, and then I will glue my focal panel down to my mat. I like this nice black border that this design leaves. Then I will affix my panel to my card base and bring in my White Blizzard Nouveau glitter crystal drops to add some accents, some shiny accents. Love this card. I think this one's my favorite. For card number 3, I stamped the linen stamp from the kit using the Bermuda ink from the kit. I stamped the mesh design from the kit in intense black ink, and that's where I'm going to place my vase. And then I've trimmed down 3 strips to about a 1/2 inch of different pearlized Hero Arts cardstock that came in a previous kit. I cut 3 strips of those, and we'll use liquid glue to affix those to on an angle on my card panel. So I will go ahead and affix all of these, turn this over, trim off either side. Now I'm bringing in my micro dots by Simon Says Stamps and putting that adhesive on the back of my vase, and we'll glue down my floral from the kit, and then affix this to a black card mat. And I'm leaving about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. Love this look. I mount this panel to my card base and then affix my sentiment and bring in some gems from a past Hero Arts kit. For card number 4, I have stamped and die cut sentiments from the kit and used liquid glue to affix them to cardstock. Trimmed them with black 1/8 inch strips of cardstock, and then I will, and then I've trimmed that piece on an angle, and then I'm going to affix it to my card panel, which I have embossed with an embossing folder, just dots. And so I didn't firmly press down on the top of my sentiment piece, but now have affixed my floral to or behind that sentiment piece and with liquid glue. And now we'll flip that over and trim off the excess. I've used liquid glue to affix my panel to my black mat, and now I'm using double-sided tape to affix my panel directly to my card base. I'm adding bubblegum pops of color to my panel, and we'll set that aside to dry. Love the way this card turned out. For card number 5, I'm starting out with the Butter Bar ink from the kit and a small blending brush, and will just lightly touch the brush to my paper and tap off when I think about it and so that I don't get harsh lines. I'm just going in a circular motion, just making it as large as I want it, all in a circular motion. And I started with a 4x6 panel for this card, and use the light green tri-blend marker to color my leaves. Use the hydrangea color to color my flowers, and then lightly stamped my vase. And I actually used a blue tri-blend marker on the back of my vellum to make that water look. And then but before cutting my vase out, I did apply the washi tape from the kit to my vellum, and then cut that out and put a strip of washi tape down here, and some of the sentiments from the kit that I heat embossed in alabaster white embossing powder onto black cardstock. And I popped my flowers up on foam tape and added my lemon chiffon pops of color to embellish the card. For card number 6, my video actually starts acting really wonky. I don't know what happened, so I'm going to be cutting most of this out. But here I have inked up, using the inks in the kit, inked up my panel, and did, after Bermuda, brought in some blue reactive ink because that was the darkest blue I could find at the moment. And so then I'm bringing in the large leaf stamp from the kit, and we'll ink that up with some Hero Arts Intense black ink and stamp that several times to get a really good impression. I'm not sure what happened to the footage, but it's moving extra slow, even though I have sped it up 4 times. It's still not really moving very, it's not close to normal at all. I've left some of this footage in anyway because I did want you to see that I have made a mask with my lathe and am after stamping the leaf in the black ink, I'm bringing in the mask and putting that on because I want to stamp over top and I don't want to stamp on my leaf. So once I get that mask on, then I'm going to bring in both of the background stamps from the kit and ink those and stamp them in navy ink, and will just alternate each stamp until I stamp all the way down my panel. I use my grid acetate sheet in between each stamping of each background because I don't want to have to clean my stamp after each. So that's what I'm doing here. Just place that over top so that I don't get ink on while I'm trying to affix my stamp. Now let's take a look back at all of the cards I made in today's video. I will also have close-ups of these cards at the end. I hope you liked today's video, and as always, thank you so much for joining me today. Until next time, good day, friends.